Stream in the background. Okay, then let's hit the most important button here, the record button. Why is this messed up a little bit? Because I want it that way. Welcome everybody to the first ever Stargate Gaming Summit on YouTube. I'm your host, Captain Sedaris. Yesterday, 27 years ago, SG1 was for the first time on the air, or better on the TV. For that reason, I thought it would be nice to meet some fellow Stargate fans and talk a bit about this amazing franchise and gaming. So, sorry guys. So joining me tonight is SG24 on Them, two longtime fans and content creators on YouTube. Hi guys, how are you doing?
Doing good. Doing good.
Oh, you go first.
Before we go into the main topic, I would like to know a little bit about yourself. How did you get into Stargate and how did you get into YouTube?
I'll go first, I guess, for this one. How did I get into YouTube? I think I was in high school and I just watched people were doing like the internet. That was when internet reviewers were kind of starting or kind of big back then. And I started doing that. I did not cover Stargate. I started to shift into Stargate content a little bit when I was in college before kind of finally deciding, yeah, that's what I was going to do. As for how I got into Stargate, I just caught it one day when I was in Florida at my grandfather's house. This was for any younger people watching. This was before like cell phones were I guess cell phones were a thing, but it was like more the flip phones. And even if you had internet access, this was like before like cellular data was kind of like common for a lot of people. So basically, when I was in Florida, it was a media blackout, and the only source of entertainment was the TV outside of being in Florida. And one day I just caught Stargate on, I think the Comet it was on Comet. It was Way of the Warrior, the one where Teal'c meets that Jaffa or that the Goa'uld pretending to be a Jaffa, and like drinks a little bit of the Kool-Aid and stuff. And I just kind of just fell in love with the series, and when I got back, I started to find out more about it and started watching it pretty much throughout college, which is probably why I shifted my content into doing Stargate stuff.
Nice.
Wait, sorry. And what did you basically... Oh no, sorry. Can you maybe also remember what first episode you saw? What was the triggering point for you, basically?
Is that for me or Tigerman?
For you.
Yeah, it was Way of the... I suppose Way of the Warrior was definitely the first episode I remember seeing. And the scene that made me kind of really fall in love with it is when Sam takes out the P90. He was giving a demonstration of how like the gun worked. I suppose part of what spoke to me about that is because in a lot of sci-fi, they tend to use like sci-fi guns, like lasers or blasters. Like not a lot of emphasis is put on like, I mean, a little bit of like the cool factor of it. that scene just really spoke that, like, yeah, a gun is a gun, and it can do dangerous stuff, even if it's just a gun. And I don't know, just something about that kind of piqued my interest. It made it seem different than a lot of other sci-fi shows.
But in general, it wasn't your first contact with sci-fi.
No, I had grown up watching Star Wars. I remember catching 1 or 2 episodes of Star Trek on the Sci-Fi Channel. The Sci-Fi Channel was over a lot. I watched probably mostly like, I guess, B-level sci-fi stuff. It wasn't until high school, I think, that I had a class called science fiction. I really learned like, because I guess I always had interest in like sci-fi stuff, but it wasn't until that class I really like learned to like, I guess, love it the way I do now.
And after that, I guess you followed the franchise to Atlantis and Universe.
Atlantis, Universe, went back to Infinity, regretted that decision.
That's the only show I haven't watched. I have it, but it's very hard to get into it.
It is. I think I actually did make it through every episode except the last one, and I weirdly do that a lot. Like Smallville, I watched every episode of Smallville except the final one. Don't know why. At that point I was like, okay, I'm done now.
I'm not sure if I should ask this. Maybe I will ruin the show for me. But is the story important for the Stargate franchise, or is it just a kid show, something you can't forget?
See, that's kind of the real tragedy of it, because to answer your question, no. In fact, the creators have said it is non-canon with the rest of the franchise, or at least the SG shows everyone's familiar with. The great tragedy in all this is the companion did an article on the show, and the writers, the people who made the show, were like veterans of the field. They had made the original X-Men cartoon, it made the RoboCop cartoon. So these weren't like amateurs or anything. These were like people who knew what they were doing, and they'd given some thoughts about how, oh, we wanted to like do all these cool things, and yeah, they didn't get a lot of input from the SG1 team, but they were saying like they kind of saw that as an opportunity because then they could kind of do whatever they wanted. They still wanted to like honor, the Stargate franchise. They didn't have to like worry about whatever SG1 was doing. However, there were 2 problems with it. First, the left hand wasn't really talking to the right hand. And by that, I mean the writers weren't really talking to the animators. Because the writers were coming up with supposedly all these big ideas for this big epic show. The writers were being asked to, or the animators were being asked to make a children's show and being paid half that amount. And the reason this happens is because no one told the writers that what the budget actually was for the show, which was like half of that of what the X-Men cartoon got.
That sounds about right for cinema in general, really, or just TV in
Oh,
general.
it gets worse because I'm sure because you watched a little of the show, you notice it has kind of a message of the day, like feel to it.
Which is
I'm not sure.
okay, but it has to be done well.
The reason it's like that is that was a government mandate.
A government? What?
Yeah, apparently this is a law. I should pull up the script because I'm doing a video on this at some point in the future. But there was a specific law that if you're making entertainment, it has to like, especially I guess for cartoons and like stuff, it has to be like educational content that promotes positive what's the word for it? I guess positive like morals, and obviously that stuff makes sense. Like don't steal, be a good person, yada yada yada. But from what I understand, around the time Infinity came out, those rules were made a lot harsher than now it is today. The reason it comes across that way uh, is because the government basically kind of forced their hands and said, "You have to do this." And I think that was actually, if I'm remembering right, that I think because it was either Fox, I think, was in charge of it. Again, they made this. took on that Stargate Infinity with the idea of that's what the show was going to be like. Again, didn't actually inform the writing team until like it was kind of a little late in the process.
Very strange. And yeah, also a little bit unique to hear that the government had also a saying in that.
Yeah. I mean, it was more. I suppose Stargate. It wasn't like the government specifically came out and said this show must be like this. It's
No,
more
no,
like
no, no. I am understanding you correctly. It's just
okay. I just want
the
to.
first time I hear that the government has, it's maybe it sounds stupid, that the government has influence in the show business. Of course they have, but in the story sense, no, that's new for me.
Yeah, influencing to keep the moral character. That sounds a bit, dystopian, doesn't it?
Yeah, I want to go try and pull up and see what their exact wording was here. I can find my script on this. At least the article, but where was it? I really need to clean out my thing here one of these days. But while I'm looking, if there was something else you wanted to ask Tigerman while I'm looking this up.
Yeah, maybe we move. I will edit everything, especially my stupid mistakes. So don't worry, it won't be the finished product. Yeah, maybe.
Hang on, I just found it. It was sorry to interrupt. It was the
Yeah, go.
1990s Children Television Act. It required TV networks to provide programming that furthered positive development of children 16 years or younger. This was to provide educational televisions that would promote socially desirable behaviors such as kindness, friendship, helpness, etc., etc.
Very strange to hear. But
So
yeah,
that's why a lot of those cartoons sucked then.
Yeah,
Well,
that's actually a
that could
joke
be
in
a
my
reason.
script that it sucks because of the government.
this sucks because it's all, oh, happiness, nice, friendliness, cooperation. It's like, yeah, welcome to the real world, guys.
Which we really don't want to touch. So let's move on
Oh,
and
no,
hear the next story.
yeah,
How
yeah.
did you get into the Stargate franchise?
How I got into the Stargate franchise was pretty much the same. I can't remember, it wasn't the Sci-Fi Channel back then because I'm an old git. I can't remember what it was. It was like Sci and then 5 like FY or something like that. I was watching Star Trek and then Stargate came on. I keep wanting to say it was the Siege that was the first episode, but it wasn't. I can't remember precisely because this was like this was when I was in school, which was a good 10, 15 years ago at this point. I'm old. But I'm pretty sure it wasn't the Siege. I keep thinking it was the original film, but either way, I was watching Star Trek and then I was half asleep and thought, oh well, this is good. Then Stargate, okay, so wormhole stuff, and I just kept watching it and then sort it out a bit more. I didn't have the internet and anything like at that time, but I asked my mates about it and they were like, oh yes, this thing exists. I was like, oh cool, you never told me. And then yeah, it went on from there. The only thing that I think I haven't seen is again I have not seen the cartoon, but I've seen all of the other series. I used to try and I was working when Universe came on, so I was staying up quite late, going to work a bit of a zombie to watch Universe. But it was fun while it lasted.
Now I'm really curious. Have you both watched MacGyver? Because I'm here, I guess, the older one. I grew up with MacGyver and then later on Stargate. So did
I
the
have
younger generation
seen-
also see that?
I have seen some of MacGyver. I've not seen much. I've seen a couple of episodes of it because it seems to be almost never on the TV ever here. So, and I've not found anywhere online to watch anything like that. So it's a bit like Knight Rider. I've not really seen Knight Rider or UFO that much.
I've seen a episode, and funny enough, it wasn't all that long ago. I was over at my parents, and they had the TV on, and it just randomly came on, and I was just like, well, that's interesting because I recognized who that was, and my parents were like, oh yeah, that's MacGyver. And I just found that I did find that funny that they recognize Richard Dean Anderson as MacGyver. I recognized him as O'Neill.
Yeah, that's the funny part. We all grew up basically that Richard Dean Anderson doesn't use any guns because he hates them. Now he's the military guy, and also he's stupid. It's so strange. What is happening?
I don't know if you guys have ever seen it, but there's like a deleted, or I guess what would you call it? It's like a scene that was in that episode where he and Sam are trapped in Antarctica. And
Yeah,
Oh,
it's amazing. It's so
MacGyver.
amazing.
Yeah.
that MacGyver, where she calls him MacGyver, and she's like slamming the ice, and it's obviously like I can't remember what it's called, a blooper, or
A reference
It's a blooper.
or
I mean, because obviously it was never going to be put in the show. It was just them breaking character.
I kind of think it was done on purpose, like an Easter. I've got a different. I think it's an Easter egg rather than a blooper there, because
Okay,
it's
yeah,
like, oh well,
Easter
why
egg.
didn't you just MacGyver it? Easter egg. That's the one.
Yeah, sorry, I cut you off there. I also wanted, of course, to hear your YouTube history. How did you get into that?
Oh, I'm normally a VTuber. I started it just. I was watching people randomly, and I thought, well, I don't have a lot to do because at the time I was between jobs. I literally just came out of work. My contract had ended. I was looking for some other stuff, so I thought, oh well, I'll do some YouTube just to kill a bit of time while I job search. And then situation changed, and I just kept doing the YouTube as everything else went different. And that was about, oh god, what was it? Gotta be 3 years ago now. I think I was doing initially starting off with World of Warships. I did some, ironically, did some Empire at War, which we played earlier. Um, Fallout 4 and some other bits and pieces, and then I just kept doing it.
And Tufo, when did you exactly start with YouTube?
I want to say around 2014. I want to say.
And was it also just out of fun? Nothing serious?
Yeah, it was basically just kind of I did stuff out of fun. I did at that time I think I was watching Steven Universe, so I did comic reviews of it. Again, I was watching like internet. I was really big into like the internet reviewer thing. People like Linkara, Nostalgia Critic at the time, and I thought well, that might be cool to do.
And of course, I have to ask you, why did you decide for SG24? Is
Okay,
it
so this
Stargate
is
related or is it something completely else?
no. So this is okay. Story time. So, like I said, I was big into Steve Universe around this time, and my favorite character in the show was a character named Peridot. And I don't know why I did this, because each character is named after like a real world gem. So, like Peridot's an actual like gem and stuff. So I went and looked up. I believe chemical equation for Peridot is like a magnesium 2 something 4. Basically, I just took the thing 2-4, and that was originally what my channel was called, 2-4. And at some point, I just add SG onto that, but I never removed the space.
Fair enough.
And I always thought you want to be in the team SG24.
No, I don't think there's any information on SG24.
Well,
Yeah,
we haven't heard anything from the SGC
we
in
know.
14 years.
Yeah, I'm looking up now. Looks like they were only in one episode, Morbius Part 1.
that sounds vaguely familiar, but I'm not sure whether that's vaguely familiar from.
No known team members, status unknown.
Well,
Fair enough.
it's a good place to start then.
To be honest, I can't even remember how many FG teams we had confirmed. I know there was just some random. I know there was a couple of them just did random one-time mentions, but I don't know how many there was in total.
Looks like the total of at least known ones goes up to 25.
Yeah, I mean, it's supposed to be a secret operation, so it makes sense.
Well, and then you also have the Alpha side and of course Atlantis, if you count those
Sure,
teams.
Atlantis, I think, has a different set of teams. So
Yeah, it's like Shepard's team's A1.
But I can't remember that they ever coded that way.
see, that's the thing. I've seen that. It's like the Atlantis teams do have that weird, at least on like sites like Fandom list them like that. But I can never recall if like the team was ever like given a specific name, like Atlantis team, like A Team One or something.
I can only imagine that maybe it was like a one-off comment by somebody and it just stuck. Because in all the mods, well, at least certainly in Pegasus Chronicles, and like you say, in a lot of the wikis and everything, it's always Atlantis A1 for Atlantis 1. So I'm presuming that maybe it was set up as a one-off thing in the show and they just forgot about maybe.
Maybe. I mean, I think that's happened before when well, like how hyperspace works sometimes.
Yeah.
So
But you mentioned there something very important. A name of a game, basically. We should switch to the main topic, maybe. This amazing franchise created so many TV episodes and sadly failed in giving us, in general, one good game. We had 2 or 3 releases, but nothing really stuck. It's always a meh. They could have done better. The community stepped up, of course, and created many different mods. Some are really on the level of game development studios, so hats off there. Especially Stargate Pegasus Chronicles, Stargate Invasion, Races. What else? Of course, the last stand, the relief, and I guess there are still many more I forget here. And yeah, sadly, also there is the sad news that the community is dead. No active games. Maybe Stargate Resistance, the only game which ever had a multiplayer and was officially made, which then got cancelled a year later, has a kind of active community, but the rest, like I said, is dead.
Yeah, which is a damn shame for official stuff. And there's plenty of people going for it in terms of unofficial and just community driven stuff, but it's a damn shame. I really wish they'd stuck to it a bit more, but it's a bit like the rest of the franchise. It's they don't seem to have the drive to make more, which is a shame. At least officially, obviously, Pegasus Chronicles. I know you both know I love that one, but yeah, it's hopefully something at some point will come along to give him a kick in the bum and get something started.
hopefully it does. So I was telling you, Sedaris. I don't know how you Sedaris the other day about like Sedarius, about kind of like I had my own thoughts about this, and you guys remember? This is going a little off topic, but I promise I'm gonna circle back here. Do you remember the app Stargate Command?
The kind of streaming service.
Right, it was that streaming app they made in 2016.
Yeah, which never
like the
worked
Stargate.
in Europe or in Austria at least.
Yeah, I
I
don't
kind of
even.
feel like that and Stargate Timekeepers, I feel like represent part of the problem because I agree. Part of the problem is the community is a little dead right now. It's not that they don't want to be dead. I see people all the time saying, "Oh, I wish we had more Stargate content," or "I wish we kind of had this versus that." When they finally do get around to making Stargate content, it's just stuff that completely boggles my mind because, first of all, with the Stargate Command app, like, I cannot think of a single franchise would justify getting its own streaming platform. Like, not even Star Wars can do something like that. I don't know why they thought Stargate could. And with
Probably they may have wanted to try it on a smaller scale. Maybe it was a funding thing, or they just wanted to try and see whether the idea could actually hold water. And so they just said I went with Stargate because it has enough fans to be to make something. Obviously, we got Universe sort of out of nowhere, so there's still enough fan base to use as a test, but not enough that if everything goes wrong, it'll actually matter.
But kind of I feel like a bit of the issue is like the studio, either MGM or Amazon, whoever owns it, like comes up with these ideas that like you like don't really sell all that well, like Origins.
Yeah,
Because I can't. Because I feel like what I remember someone. It was the podcast. You guys have heard of the channel, the podcast?
Sure.
I think they made a video in which they said like the Stargate community had like let down Stargate because we didn't all like jump in and get the app or like praise Stargate Origins. I feel like what that kind of does is it tells when that's now I kind of disagree with that idea a little bit. Like the idea that the I guess the executives with the money see that Stargate Origins didn't do well, the Timekeepers didn't do well, and then they think I guess there's just not a demand for Stargate.
I mean, I think that is a little bit of it because obviously if it's not selling, they want to sell everything and they want to sell it really quickly. So if it's not jumping out, if it's not like what's the phrase? If it's not a horse out the jumping out the races, then it kind of gets put on the sideline a bit. Or at least that's the way it feels. It might not. It may be how it feels rather than how it is, but that's how we see it at the moment.
Right?
You mentioned there they don't really know how many people are out there who would want to watch or play something in the Stargate universe. I guess they have, because they killed so many friend projects in the last 2 years. Well, is it already 3 years? They have numbers. They have fan bases out there. They could check and get in touch with some of those developers even. Maybe hire them so they can publish this legally, maybe even earn a little bit of money. And they have a metric without any risk.
Right? I mean, with Stargate, Stargate Resistance, I think that would probably be pretty. I want to say be easy to maybe make those servers more official, but maybe approach people who are currently running them, like the fans, and say, "Hey, we want to turn this into something official," and like, I guess do kind of like make it somewhat profitable. Because I mentioned the other day about giving like Jaffa different heads or even a Christmas hat.
Target resistance maybe is a little bit difficult because the license is in limbo. But if you contact, for example, the guys from the Stargate network, which did this virtual museum tour basically of the SGC and a few planets, it's no loss for them. Or there was a Homeworld mod which got cancelled a few years back.
That one was weird because I swear they put that on like the Stargate Command YouTube page. I
Okay,
always
that's
thought for a
really
second I
weird.
thought it was official or something. Like, oh my god, it's an official game. And then when I went and looked, it's like, oh, it's a mod for a game I've never played. Okay, well I'll save my money up and try and get it. And then next thing I knew, it was just gone.
Really,
Yeah,
really strange.
Yeah, it seems to happen more and more lately. I mean, it makes sense to do stuff like that, but a lot of the companies won't take the risk. They won't reach out. Some of them will, but it seems more and more everybody's playing it a bit fast and loose, and at the same time safe. So they're jumping on projects and know they'll make money, and they're being really cautious about everything else. So we're getting a lot of the same regurgitated stuff. It seems like we're getting a lot of the Star Treks. It's all, when you're watching it, it's all the same. I mean, they brought out the trailers last night for the new Star Treks, and it's they're not very good. So it's a bit like they're trying to jump on the. They don't want to. It's either they don't want to take the risk, or they just want to jump on things that they'll know will make them a quick buck, because there'll be something to replace it a bit later.
Like I said, if they have an already established project, they could get in touch, especially Pegasus Chronicles is so well done. It has not a huge fan base, but big enough to maybe warrant some discussions, I would say.
Yeah, yeah. It has enough to warrant the discussion, certainly, but I other than not wanting to for whatever reason, or having some aversion to it, or overcautiousness, I can't really think of any other good reasons for it.
Especially if you consider the only real game we got in the last decades even is Stargate Timekeepers, which also suffered the curse of the Stargate franchise. It was released, but only half of it. And we had this before. We had Stargate Unleashed, which was a mobile game. It released 2 episodes, or maybe 3. And the last 3 episodes were never released because the company went bankrupt and they had to remove everything again. So, yeah, we have a new game, but it's still not there. I'm curious how it will develop. And I would even say the fan base of this game isn't really big. Compared to Pegasus Chronicles, it's a joke, sadly.
And when I talked about the game, I brought this up because this is something when I first saw the trailers for the game, I assumed it'd be kind of like it's like an XCOM style game. I was later informed that it's gonna be more like a Commandos kind of. I don't know if you guys have heard of that style of game.
Yeah, I played it back when it was released in my childhood. I'm sadly the old guy here.
I'm curious.
Commando, sort of like Command and Conquer, or something like.
No, it's kind of like it's hard to describe. It's like a stealth tactics game. If you want to.
Basically, you have up to 4 or 5 team members. Every member has a different ability, and you control them from an isometric view. It's
cool.
Some games are turn-based, like the mentioned XCOM games, where you only have certain movement points, and after you spend all your movement points on your characters, you have to end the turn, and the enemy can make their move. And Stargate Timekeepers is a little bit more on the real-time aspect, but you also can stop time and give every member orders, and they can even synchronize their movement.
So it's basically sort of a real-time strategy that can be paused, a bit like a bit like Empire at War then, but just more in the realms of the normal strategy. Is that what you're meaning?
Not really, because you don't have any building in the sense. You only have your 3, 4, or 5 characters. That's it. And if one of those dies, it's over for this character. You can still, in some games, I'm not sure if Timekeepers also has this rule. In some games, you can still end the round, but in some you can't.
In Steiner, when I played Timekeepers, if any one of your characters dies, it's an immediate game over.
Okay.
And it's because the reason I was interested for you when you mentioned that you liked it is because I talked with some people who played Commandos. Tell me, yeah, I might have played that growing up, but I did not like Timekeepers all that much.
It's the same with me. I played Commandos, I liked it, but to be honest, I'm now older. I have to really think how I spend my time. And those real-time tactics game, they're a little bit on the torture side of gaming. You have to auto-save every move. You can die instantly because you missed some guy patrolling on the other side of the map, and for some reason he can see you, and everything is lost. So it's very frustrating if you are not a fan of that suffering aspect.
Yeah, I can definitely understand where you're coming from with there. It's one of the reasons why, even though X4 should have been a game that I would be absolutely in love with, I haven't played it. I played a little bit of it, and then as an adult, if it was younger, it would be great. But as an adult, I just don't have the time for it, which is a shame because it looks fantastic, but it's too much.
Yeah, there's certain games where you have to end your real life and only play. They are amazing, definitely,
Yeah.
but not for everybody. And especially if there is a suffering component where really the game concept is that you learn from your mistakes, that you have to die over and over again, that you can finally finish the mission. Yeah, it's not for everybody.
No. When I was younger, yeah. Now that I've actually got responsibilities, no.
Just looking, give me a second.
Uh-huh.
So, Tufo, if I did understand this correctly, you bought the game or did you just play the demo?
I did do the demo and I did play the game because I did convince myself I was gonna like brute force my way through it. And I have not gone back since. Because what happened during when I got to the second episode, this just so infuriated me. Is it took me like I think an hour or two to actually get to the final stage. And because when I did my first playthrough, I messed up and I didn't kill off the guards in one area. Oh, I would have had to like climb back down this tree, make my way through an enemy camp, go all the way over to this one spot, kill like 3 guys just to go all the way back up again. So I just had to restart it. Sucks, but not that bad. After I did that, I made sure to kind of pay attention to what my objectives were. When I got to the final stage in the second episode, it said, "Hey, send this character to this position." I did, but I didn't realize I needed that character to get my other character somewhere else. Basically, I kind of soft locked myself because my character couldn't get past a certain area that the other character who was kind of locked in. And I guess that the saves are I found the saves a little hard to use. Only save I had was like from 2 hours ago, so it's like so my option is to either restart the game, go back to that save file. I just put it down and just turned it off, and I haven't gone back since.
Yeah, and that's always the worst when that sort of thing happens, especially in older games where you just end up soft locking yourself, or you end up with some bug that was never properly patched or something, and drive yourself insane trying to do them.
Yeah, and I didn't feel and I'm gonna go another thing I didn't like about the game is because developers kept talking about how this is a game of like freedom. You can take whatever option you want to finish the level, and that's kind of true in the sense that they gave you different paths you could follow. But you still have to follow, like, their specifically planned out pathway,
Yeah,
because if
yeah,
you try and, like, do things your own way, oftentimes you'll get shot and then have to restart and pray that you have a save close by, otherwise you're gonna get sent back quite a ways.
yeah. The illusion of choice rather than the freedom of choice. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, you can solve these problems in all these different ways, and when you actually get down to it, no, you can't. Sure, I
Yeah.
can take a different path, but I still have to do all this. I've got to slog through all this lot for you.
Especially
Especially
annoying is that you always have to kill every soldier on the map. Why?
Mhm.
It's kind of an episodical approach of storytelling. Why do I really have to kill every last standing man?
Especially because it's technically a stealth game, isn't, like, it better to kind of avoid the guards? Sneak your
Yep.
way through rather than, like, because that's the weird thing about it, like, you were saying you have to kill everybody. You can't go in guns blazing because you only get, like your character can only take, like, 3 hits before they die, and so you can't take them on head on. You wanna sneak past them, you still have to kill them, so it's a weird, like, mishmash, like, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to kill everyone and then sneak my way through? It just feels like 2 different, like, ideas clashing with each other.
That
Yeah.
def- Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. I was just agreeing. That's sort of it's one of the worst things where it's like, oh yeah, you've got different paths. You can do this. You can do that. And it's like, oh, when you've been going through loads of stealth, and then it suddenly wants you to go, loud, or what even a loud game, and all of a sudden you're in the stealth section. It's like, okay, well, and they never do it properly, so you're always dying and resetting and all the rest of it, and it's just, if you're gonna make a stealth game, make a stealth game. If you're gonna make a game where I'm shooting everything apart, then make a game where I'm shooting everything apart. It is a bit of a crash of identity, maybe.
I always
That's
also
definitely what it. You first?
I always also love when the story has a time aspect. The first mission plays during the Battle of Antarctica, where you have to help SG1 basically, and the game forces you to waste basically time and create a strange soldier on the other side of the map, which isn't relevant for your goals.
That just sounds awkward. But yeah, I mean, some things I can understand. Sometime that starts sense again. Games with certain time limits are fine, but when, like, the original, what was it, Fallout 1, we had the Master's Army was coming, so you had a literal army on your heels as you were trying to explore the wasteland, and they were moving as you were moving, that kind of thing. But I often find where a lot of them, they don't give you enough time to actually explore all the bits, or you have to go like a very specific path if you actually want to, do it in time. So you're more worried about a clock over here than you are about enjoying yourself.
That's actually the best way to this, because for me, I believe like video games should first and foremost should be fun, to be enjoying yourself. But with Timekeepers, I just felt like I wasn't enjoying myself at the end. It felt like I'm busy doing too many things, just to kind of get to the end, and I don't even get a sense of like completion at the end. So it's like I keep playing.
Yep. Yeah, I completely understand that. Where it's one of the, I don't know why developers do that. I don't get it. They keep doing it. I don't know why. Maybe one day they'll put that idea away, or actually give you enough time to actually do all of the bits, so it's not really. I mean, obviously, if you're like chasing somebody or doing something like that, you can kind of understand it. But if you're not, then ease up a little bit on the time limits.
In addition to that, I also think the developers didn't really a good job in capturing the Stargate feeling. I watched many different YouTube videos and reviews, and I never got the feeling, yeah, this entire map looks like Stargate, or the entire setting really gives you the Stargate vibe. We played in the last few days many different Stargate mods and some original games even. And yeah, they really feel like Stargate. And this is completely missing. But what do you think, 2-4?
Actually, I'll give this to because the first level I did past the Antarctic one, I actually kind of like the way that planet looked, and I did get some weird Stargate vibes from it. You are kind of right. Like other clips I've seen from the game, they don't really look like Stargate. And I saw someone funny enough point this out. You never like go through like the Stargate once in the game. You're always just kind of like in the planet somewhere randomly.
And
Which
sadly,
I
that's
guess
the core feature of Stargate. The Stargate
yeah, it's like
itself.
Stargates, yeah. Oh,
yeah, the reason it's called Stargate and not like Prometheus or something. Random
yeah,
Canadian looking planet.
yeah. Or when you, but so many developers do that, or so many games do that, where it's like, hey, we're based on this franchise, but actually, we're not.
From the
Here too,
looks,
because
it could be Commandos in 2024. It's just different units, modern tech, but yeah, no Stargate vibe in the sense also that you start in the SGC and travel to the planet. It could be a small cutscene even, but nothing.
that's something I think someone said to me. Like would be that hard to just have like all your missions be in that. Even just if it's just like transition, at least it give you the impression that your character is going through the gate. But most of the times you just kind of spawn in randomly in the planet somewhere. Like sometimes I even question how they got there because I think in the second mission you walk past the Stargate when you're sneaking through the camp. So it's like, how did they get there then? I mean, I'm sure by ship by this point in the timeline, but
Yeah, but it would be nice to know.
yeah.
That's one thing in the original Commandos title which I really liked. They had a nice briefing. They even had historical pictures to basically tell you the mission objectives. You have to destroy this ship. You have to set the explosives to this dam. And they really had a background story there. We could have the same thing here. Give us a briefing room situation where a general basically tells you have to go to this planet. Here are some the intel pictures, the UAV pictures. A little bit of explanation and it would be better.
I think they did do a little bit of explanation if I'm remembering right, but it's always in like the loading
there
cutscene.
is
It's not like
a
what
text
you were
wall, an audio version, but
well,
it's
like you were
static.
saying, yeah, that they could easily like have like a like in the SGC briefing room, I don't know, like a film reel going or something that's like on screen explaining like what they know about the plan, who your target is, all that stuff, versus just like a well painted, essentially still image.
It's totally overkill for even bigger studios to make it, but back in my childhood, we had games where they hired real actors and you had video clips basically for briefings, for mission endings, stuff like that.
That reminds me of the original Command and Conquer.
Exactly, that was the direction I'm going, or the Wing Commander games.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's just original actor cutscene, and you're thinking, oh, that's I actually played one of those recently. It was the original AVP. That's what I always remember it from. I always remember the Command and Conquer and the original AVP, where you were trying to, well, the one that actually allowed you to do all three factions for the first time, and you had this panicked Marine on the edge of his seat, just going, "Get in there! The reactor's gonna blow!"
In the same
So,
note, of course, it would also be great if we had more voiceover work from the original characters. I can understand that they would pass on that because they did this so many times and the project got cancelled. So yeah, sadly, I know the problems there.
Even
yeah,
maybe
and
just
yeah, go on.
I was gonna say because even like with the characters they introduced in that game, like outside of the first mission, I can't remember them really talking much. Like part of the charm of Stargate is like you kind of fall in love with these characters. You know, they're funny. You want to see them through their journey. And maybe it's because I didn't really get that far in the game, but I don't recall any of the characters like having conversations that made me like, oh, that's interesting. To like, I think there was like one scene, like two scenes that just make it kind of interesting, like learning that in the first level during the Antarctic mission that the sniper and the commander used to date. And then in the third mission, where you find out the Jaffa girl's mother she's a member of what's his name, Moloch's group who like sacrifices women, and she had tried to sacrifice her daughter. Outside of those two things, like I don't really know anything about these guys. Yeah, maybe it's because I didn't finish the game, but you think over the course of like 3 missions, I would learn a bit more than that.
Yeah, yeah, where it's like same thing in quite a few games where you meet this character just once and you're like supposed to care about them and then they're just gone. So you end up in a situation where, okay, was I supposed to care about that person? They're gone now. Nice seeing you, but
See you later.
yeah.
Speaking of that, I'm really curious, like I said in the beginning, if we ever see the second part, because it should have been released long ago. The latest confirmed date would be basically now in the next few weeks, but nothing on the horizon. So
I remember that the
yeah,
base game too. Like it got delayed, and then no one really knew when it was coming out again. Then it's just something like, oh, we're doing it now. Then
yeah. And what is the best? What is the best time to release an SG1 game? Maybe on the anniversary. They wanted to do
true.
that for the 25th anniversary. That got pushed back. The second part, I guess, will be pushed back again a few times. Yeah,
I was
maybe.
kind of hoping first heard like it would lead to like maybe a future announcement of Stargate. Like maybe they would have like even just a concept idea like trailer or something, and be like, oh, we'll have this ready like by 2027 or 2028 or something. Nope, haven't really heard anything about it.
Yep, complete silence.
Sucks
It
too,
would.
because I don't know if you guys.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say I don't know if you guys heard, but I know Brad had like was working with Amazon to make a Stargate script, and he had like he had written a script. It was all set to go, and then they just COVID hit, and then they just never got back to him. In fact, I think he did later release like a lot of the ideas of what was in the script. I think someone had said that's not really a good sign because that means they've moved on without him, or maybe they just shelved the plans for some reason.
Probably shelved the plans because a lot of the stuff was supposed to come out beforehand. I heard something about that as well, but it was all pre-COVID. And I think once COVID hit, they sort of consolidated what they wanted to do and just abandoned all the plans for it, which is a shame.
I think a lot of places, because I know a lot of people are saying a lot of places have recovered from COVID, but I think like the entertainment industry is still like recovering, to be honest. Because I know like a lot of animation studios have been getting shut down, and the reason I've been hearing is that they're still trying to like find ways to save money.
That doesn't surprise me. I mean, people have been saying, "Oh, the economy's recovered from COVID over here," and it hasn't. It has in certain places, in some of the big places where they were already so big that it didn't matter. But certainly in places like my area and that lot, where we were dying before COVID, and now COVID just took everything else from us.
Yeah, sadly, I don't have high hopes for a revival. We had so many times a big contributor to the Stargate franchise basically tell us, yeah, we're working on something and hopefully something will happen. And yeah, we have 2024, nothing there. There was also the one time where one actor, Joe Flanagan, even tried to buy the entire franchise to continue
Yeah,
it.
I heard about that.
And sadly, MGM went bankrupt, and yeah, he never heard from those guys again.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that I don't really know, but it's such a shame. There's so much potential there. There's always been potential there, but there's so much of a focus on other franchises at the moment that I don't think they've even really put any genuine thought into it at the moment. I think they
Yeah.
probably had some thought. They probably had some desires to push forward with it, and then just decided to avoid it.
Going back to the gaming aspect, did either of you play the Unleashed, the mobile game?
I did not, sadly.
I
Though I
saw
guess
a little
since it
bit.
was All right, you first.
No, go on.
Yeah, yeah, I saw like clips of it, and I think there's a way you can play it. Because I know someone has like released some of the game files for it, but yeah, I've never played it.
I still own a brick, so I have no internet on my phone, so I've only seen some clips. But yeah, I haven't actually played it. I tend to stay away from a load of the mobile stuff because I know if I bought myself an up to date phone, then I'd be on it all the time.
Mm.
But yeah, I've seen just a handful of clips. I've not seen anything substantial from it.
Yeah, me too. I only watched a little bit of YouTube clips there, and I won't go farther because I think I will be frustrated if I watch those 2 episodes or Let's Play, for example, and I can't watch anything more. The story is incomplete.
And I know that's been a kind of a bit of the back of my eye whenever I look at some, specifically for that Unleashed. But when I look at certain stuff I want to watch, it's just like, well, I saw this got in fact for Universe. I've had people tell me that's why they didn't want to watch it, is because it ended so soon. It's like I don't want to get invested just to have it end so suddenly.
Yeah, and you can understand where they're coming from. I was highly invested in Universe. I was loving it. Sure, Universe has always had a couple of issues and the like, but on the whole, I was really enjoying it. And then it just sort of, I was like, well, where's the rest of it then?
I think the
Yeah,
timing was bad. We
Probably.
all wanted we all wanted a next season of Stargate Atlantis, basically, and not Universe. If Atlantis had a satisfying end and lead into Universe, that would be okay, I think. Having a complete new style, new series, that's fine. But the fan base back then was in the mindset, hey, what is happening after Atlantis reached Earth? We want to know.
Yeah, and we didn't even get the answer to that.
yeah. Unless you want to go to the books or comics, but I've had people tell me they refuse to read those. I understand where they're coming from because people say they're not like the official end, but
Yeah,
I
and I
mean,
guess a few fans who are burned from the Star Wars franchise, where they read so many books, and for them that was the canon, and then Disney said, "Nope, nothing. We destroy everything which isn't on TV or in the cinema. Only our own stuff, our own comics, our own movies. That's canon now."
what the sad part about that is, Disney itself won't like hold to it because even with the books and comics they make, they like override it basically on a whim.
yep,
And then
yep.
the people who read them or even made them are like, what was the point of that then? If you're just gonna override my stuff.
Yeah, and it's a bit like what we're saying a couple of days ago, where the company itself, the organization itself, doesn't care about the law. It doesn't care about the actual franchise in general. It just wants that quick cash in to use the name because it knows there's a Brian, can you please work? It's not that late. Yeah, we've already got a fan base that they can milk, so go for it. And I think they may do something similar with Stargate eventually, but at the moment they're too busy milking the other franchises to bother with us. Maybe I'm just being too pessimistic. I don't know.
No, sadly, I'm there with you. I also I mentioned in a
Yeah.
different stream, I'm scared when and if Target ever will continue what they will do with this franchise.
Yeah, how will they find a way to butcher it? How will they find a way to take the thing that we love and
Basically
So
tell us how bad those original characters were and what their mistakes in general were.
uh-huh.
So I might play devil advocates here because if it had been anyone else who bought, because Amazon owns MGM right now, and while Amazon definitely does not have a clean record, like not messing stuff up with like Rings of Power, for example, they do somewhat have a little trust in them that they could maybe do a decent Stargate show. Especially since, and I hate to say this, Stargate isn't necessarily that big name of like a franchise. Like it's big enough, obviously, because we're all fans of it. I feel like if they were to make a show, people wouldn't be like, "Oh, we're gonna try and," because I think part of the problem is like people want to get a hold of these franchises and put their vision out. They focus too much on the money. I think Stargate is like low key enough that they wouldn't really care all that much. Just like make a show, they'll make money. I don't care what you do, etc., etc.
Potentially, but
Potentially. There's always that
it's
danger because, like Rings of Power, for example, Amazon has to own that. But I mean, like with the Fallout show, I know people had issues with it. I thought it was okay, a few problems here and there. So if they made a Stargate show of in that ballpark, I would be okay with it.
Yeah, someone's already. I think these days you have to approach something with a bit of a twist to get anybody to even hook onto what you're trying to put down, which is a shame in itself. But I imagine if we do get a Stargate, it'll be an echo of what we want rather than the full thing. But at least we
As,
get something.
especially since because I think we're also used to like TV shows, like especially with Stargate, that had like 20 episodes a season, but now you're gonna get like maybe 8 if you're lucky,
Yeah,
which kind of goes against something Brad had said in an interview where like each episode should be its own story. Well, you can't do that if you only got 8 episodes.
I mean
Well,
each
some
if you've
try.
got.
I'm try.
Mm, yeah, you can't really do multi-parters and that lot if you've only got 8. If you've got 20, if you've got 20 to go on, then if you've got another season to go on, then sure. But if you've only got, a handful of episodes to go, then you can't really afford to be waiting for too long.
Right.
Which is a shame. It means I mean, at the same time, it means you can drop into any episode, but it also means we don't get some of the fun stuff.
Yeah, I think some of the best episodes in Stargate are ones that don't necessarily have to do with like the overall story. It's just them going on an adventure.
Yep. Yeah, I'd agree with that. And when we did get a hook, we always want to be there for the next one.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Which was
maybe in the
just good
future we.
writing.
Sorry.
No, go on.
Well, maybe we see in the future a new series, something amazing like Stargate and the adventure of the Alpha Sites, the children of the Alpha Site.
Oh, that would be interesting. I'll say interesting at least.
Mhm.
Maybe Earth's been separated or an alternate reality or something. I mean, alternate reality is a good way for him to have a bit of a play around without destroying too much.
Yeah, I think that's what the Kelvin timeline was supposed to do, but
It works
some people
great.
aren't that warm with that.
I
I mean,
mean,
I thought it was okay, but
I as a huge Star Trek fan, I think the Kelvin timeline just there's they made too many changes for their explanation, and it just ended up feeling like Star Wars. I mean, when you look at Control and all the rest of that, it was just a fighter battle with the Enterprise and Discovery standing there. There was no. When you look at sort of like even TNG or Deep Space Nine, there was a big risk. There was a threat there. There was pacing. This was a lot of the modern stuff is just, oh, look at the pretty explosions. Don't you enjoy the pretty explosions? It's like, okay, well, where's the depth?
What we have a big threat, a universe existential crisis in every season. we, we have the biggest problems ever in modern Star Trek.
it's kind of funny that that's become a problem where they keep building up the threat. Because I watched someone who talked about this with, funny enough, Dragon Ball. You think we would have learned that lesson? Like, you don't have to keep like building up like threats. Sometimes you can have like smaller scale conflicts that are like character driven that some people think are even better than like the big high stakes stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that's what a lot of Star Trek originally was. It was, there were character-driven episodes. We cared about the people.
Mhm.
I really don't care about Burnham and all the rest of it. I don't feel connection to those characters or really much of it at all. What I have seen, I have not gone out my way to watch it. That's not what happened with other series. Other series, I went out of my way to to catch up with the characters, to catch up with the shows, and to actually see everything. But I just with this one, it just didn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
And also going
Kind
back
of
to
funny
the.
because
Sorry if you have one point, one
I
more.
was just gonna make one last thing. It's
Yeah.
kind of funny because you were talking about how like they focus on these big like CGI battles now. It's funny because I feel like if they did less of that and focused more on the saving the character stuff, they would probably save a lot more money.
Yeah, but they're trying to breach, at least as far as I can tell, they're trying to reach out to sort of what they think the more modern audience wants, and maybe what they think. Sure, that sort of thing sells briefly, but to keep the show sustained, you need the characters, you need more than just some action. At least in my opinion.
Sadly, saving money isn't big in Hollywood and in the Stargate franchise. We also had a few games in the past which were many years in development and then got cancelled. Like I mentioned, the entire cast of SG1 lent basically their voices to the characters again. Everything was recorded and it got cancelled. We never hear that stories.
Yeah, and given the extent of what was left, you have to wonder, well, why did you cancel it when you're pretty much done? Just put the extra bit of cash into it and send it out, and you'll have a return on your investment. But it seems a bit, I don't know, it's like rocket science to some of these people, it seems.
I can't remember what the deal was with Alliance, but I remember with Worlds, part of it was that like apparently like the CEO was stealing money. Just by the end, they didn't have enough, and ended up that's why the studio flopped.
I also heard a similar story. But to be honest, if I'm the shareholder, or not the shareholder, if I'm the company behind Stargate, I just give the license then to the next best studio and finish the project.
And it also depends what they've got on the other side. I mean, so many people have been burnt trying. Stargate has failed so many times. They've failed to get it up. I wonder if people are thinking, well, this isn't worth the effort anymore. Well, we've got these other franchises that are working for us. Let's ease off on this and work on them.
Be because I think at least I know with Babylon 5, like there's been talks about being like a reboot for it, and I know they just released like an animated movie.
Yeah, I haven't watched it, but it's on my watch list.
Oh, I thought that had been cancelled.
No, there is an animated movie of Babylon 5.
Okay, that I'm gonna have to go hunt that down because I love Babylon 5. I genuinely thought that had been cancelled.
Luckily, only Stargate projects get cancelled. Another big project we touched, Stargate Alliance. I watched back then the trailer for that game so many times. I loved basically to play SG1, the different characters, having a kind of a way mission, go to the gate, see the SGC for the first time. It was also the same time when we had this season 8 episode Avatar, where Tiak is in the VR environment. And we all thought, hey, that could be the game we are playing in just a few months. And nothing.
I thought it was the game got canceled, and and they used the assets in that episode.
I'm not sure if it's really the assets, if it was just a Doom mod, because it also looked a little bit like Doom 3, the engine at least. Totally don't know what they did there. We only have confirmation that game clips from Stargate Worlds were used in Universe in the pilot episode. But other than that,
I remember.
Don't have any confirmation, or that didn't see any.
I remember that was the first step. It was okay. So I love Universe, but I've always wanted to ask that. Who thought it was a good idea to put a math problem in a video game and just put it out to the public? I do like Universe, but I always thought that was one of the most craziest things they ever did.
Yeah, I at the same time, it's sort of crazy enough that you can imagine it happening because somebody behind would think, oh, well, we could just find them like this way, maybe.
True. And it's probably one of those ideas I feel like either O'Neill or Sam came up with, or maybe not Sam, but
somebody in an office looked at it and thought, "Oh, hang on a minute, let's just do this."
Oh, I guess we totally know who did this. It was Dr. Lee. He was a WoW, a World of Warcraft player, so it must have been him.
You
Must
know
have been.
what? Quite possible.
And of course, it would have been a great advertisement if Stargate World were released. And it also had not only the normal traditional MMO gameplay, but also problems to solve. Maybe something you have to Google or, yeah, real
I
riddles.
think weren't they going to do something like that where you had to like find Stargate addresses to go to certain planets?
It would be great. It would so fitting. It would be so fitting for an MMO. But saying that, of course, it would be fitting for an MMO in the past. Nowadays, everything is casual, so it wouldn't sell well.
Yeah, I've noticed that a bit, and I don't know if either of you play Star Trek Online, but I've kind of noticed that with some of the recent missions.
Oh, I'm noticing this since release. It's a trend. It originally started basically by, hey, you have to fly your ship to the planet to beam down there. Then you could buy your way to transport there immediately. Then it was free. So there is no necessity any longer to travel anywhere. You just transwarp everywhere.
I think there's a cooldown at the very least, or maybe some ships
The
do it for
cooldown
free.
is for the transwarp points in the galaxy, but you can accept a mission and have the transwarp button there. It's for free. You click there and you will be at the mission location.
Yeah, sometimes I don't do that. I think I just get in the ship and fly there because to me it's a lot cooler just watch the planets go by, like
Yeah,
transwarping.
I wanted to get into Star Trek Online. I got into it a little bit, and then just I didn't have enough time for it. But I've watched some clips. I've watched some. Oh, what's the guy's name? Certifiably in Gaming. He's done some, I think.
Oh yeah, he's done some of that content. I think yeah, he and I think Lore Reloaded tried it once.
Yeah.
To be
And
honest,
it was. I thought
Star
it was
Trek
good.
Online is a good single player MMO. It doesn't have to rely on other players. You can beat everything yourself. And after so many years, the whole system is totally unbalanced. You can kill a Borg cube in under 3 seconds if you're good. If you're not that good, you beat it in 10 seconds.
I'd definitely be a 10-second kind of guy, knowing me.
Yeah, it's sadly breaks canon. I love the developers. They're really amazing. They basically included every known Star Trek ship in the game. You can fly everything. So it's
Yeah,
really well done, but it's way too casual, way too mass murder. Basically, it's, yeah.
loses kind of the essence of what it is. I'm
Exactly.
guessing.
The story is great. I prefer their story much more than everything we got on the telly. It's way more better written. But going back to the Stargate franchise, I would love an MMO, definitely. But I would fear that they would also instant travel everywhere. It's just too casual, and yeah, for that I don't want an MMO. For that I want a single player game. But nothing like that. An MMO
Maybe
always have for me
something-
to play with other people, to be dependent on other people.
Yeah,
because there's Are you first?
yeah, that's the one problem with MMOs. You either get a really good team, you get a really good group of friends and people together, or you get stuck with randos, and most of them aren't doing anything sensible. It's like with the World of Warships, where you have these battleships with 100,000 health. You're on a tiny destroyer with like 20,000 health, and they're sniping from the other side of the map, ignoring all the objectives and getting pure damage to pad the numbers. And you're like, okay, well, you look at the like win ratios, and they're like 30% or less, because they're just at the back of the map sniping, and you're up there trying to actually win, trying to enjoy it. It's like, okay, no help at all. and it's either going to be that or it's going to be something similar.
I have an aspect to go in that direction, but I don't want to now. If 24 has any 24 has any comments or any ideas.
Oh no, I was just gonna say I agree. I used to play Smite, and that would be a big turnoff reason I stopped playing that game was to get stuck in that game. You're kind of stuck in. You're not allowed to leave. So you might get in with a really bad team and kind of have a miserable time. So I totally get where you guys are coming from with that.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons that I've been turned off so many multiplayer games. Is I used to play it almost religiously, but now just I barely pick it up anymore because just the sheer amount of nonsense that's going on.
I'm
And
outing myself again as the old fuck here. Sorry, guys. I grew up in a world basically where chatting was the standard. It was totally normal in an MMO to chat. It's completely gone in recent games, and I also felt it very, very much now during the anniversary of Stargate, where I tried to contact really, really a lot of people, and I got only a few answers. Most ignored me. Most ignored the event details. It's really sad that we are in a time where we have so many communication tools, and the most basic one, the chatting, is completely gone.
yes,
I mean, even just not even just basic communication. I feel like people just don't want to talk to each other in some of these games.
people just
It's
don't want to
like
talk
they're
to each
going in
other.
with a group of friends they know.
Yeah, it seems like you know what with chatting. I've been in games where I've done the same thing because I'm probably out of myself for being a little bit older as well. I've done the same thing. I have been in the game just to chat, but it's a bit different doing that as opposed to like World of Warships. There isn't anywhere. There's not like a central lobby or anything. You're sort of going in match after match after match. It's a bit like Counter Strike if you played the original Counter Strike, but just with warships. So there are like clans and there are things that you get together, but in other places I've played not RuneScape. There was another one that was similar to RuneScape that I used to go in, and I just used to play a little bit of single player, occasionally hop into a match, but I would never sort of. I guess it's a different mindset. I just some people these days don't seem to care how they affect others, and they just want to do what they want to do, and I can never get behind that.
Especially in the MMO sense, it was always the goal to simulate a real world. Originally,
Yeah.
I played Star Wars Galaxies. That was my first MMO ever. And there you had basically shuttle points where you could travel basically to the main starboard, and from that port you could travel to other planets. And if you missed the shuttle, you had to wait for 3 or 4 minutes until the next one is getting there. In that time, what did you do? You chatted. It was really a social interaction.
Yeah, I've heard Star Wars Galaxies is one of those things that I've actually heard quite a few positive things about. I don't know whether it's still in existence. I seem to remember, what was it? The XP gamers were talking about it a couple of years back. But from everything I heard, there was a good community with it. I never participated myself, but I've heard
I
good
don't want
things.
to make too much advertisement for that franchise at the moment because we have the Stargate anniversary, but I will say it's
Yeah.
still active. There are still communities who develop these games even.
Hmm.
Just a few years back, they basically gave, or one group basically gave, how to say it, a certain branch of the game a new expansion. They included Bespin, where you could basically then have an apartment and style it the way you want. You had new ships to fly, much more content than we could have dreamed of from the community. And it's still active, so you can play it. Of course, I had a few friends who tried it just a few years ago, and they said they couldn't play it because it's too old. It's a game from 2003. So yeah, you have limitations in the game engine.
Yeah, I don't. I still. I mean, hell, I still boot up the original Half-Life and stuff like that on occasion. So I don't usually mind gameplay limitations. It's sometimes something is a bit too clunky to go back to, but I play a lot of clunky stuff anyway. So can't really think of any example. I can't think of any examples now. I've said it, but there are a couple that I'm like, maybe not. But
That's
for the
good
most
to hear,
part,
at least.
yeah. Well, for the most part, I enjoy going back to play some of the other stuff. Like I made, like I say, Half Life. Oh god, what else do I play? Like Warrior Kings. Warrior Kings barely exists anymore. I only just found it on GOG.
I have to look that up. I never heard about that.
I think it's 2001. Basically, it's a sort of a fan. How to describe it? Basically, the classic revenge story where you get kicked out of your sort of family home, your city gets burned down by an evil empire, and you escape and have to try and rebuild your armies to take back your ancestral home and avenge yourself against the empire.
Think wrong in that.
Coughs in British.
Well, guys, if you don't have anything about the old games, I would switch to what we wish for a new game, basically, or a new genre. I just, sorry, go ahead if you have a point for the old games.
Oh no, I did. I was just about thinking what you said because I had some ideas actually.
I just throw out mine, and then I want to hear your ideas, your general ideas. The first thing I mentioned also in the roundtable discussion about Star Trek games, please don't give us a mobile game. I really don't like those very shallow games. I want a real adventure and not a McDonald's quick happy meal. I want something real.
Yes, please. Please. Oh, please, developers. Please.
And for me, it's always a big aspect in gaming or in any content creation that it will stand the test of time. Have a direct IP support. Have mod support, map editors. Give content creators basically the chance to tell their own stories. Have the assets you provide for the game also open for the public, basically, that they can use that. And the biggest factor for me in gaming is always co-op. Make it every game, at least give every game the possibility to enjoy together. I'm not a fan of only PvP games.
Same. I very, very rarely play PvP games, and I mean, when you think about it, Empire at War, we played it a couple of days ago. It's still, out of all the games that they played, it is the number 2 Star Wars game still played on Steam. Out of everything they've done, that is the second most played Star Wars game on Steam. It is still got there are still mods for it. There are still people buying it because there are mods for it. Because it was a solid game from the start. We have tools. Well, the mod developers have tools to do things. They're still making a profit off of it, and that's the thing. That's what I wish some of the companies would realize. Steam gives a lot of support to people, so there's not really, especially if you're a big company trying to make a big game, future-proof your game.
That's one aspect. It's totally true that even dead games can be revived by the modding communities. We saw that so many times in the past, but I just came up also with the strong argument you could use that modding support as kind of how to say it,
Stepping stone or something else?
No, not a stepping stone. You could use it as a search tool for new developers. If you basically find a team which does amazing content, you could maybe approach them and say, hey, I like what you're doing. Would you like to do something for me?
Yeah, that's not necessarily a bad idea. All I would say to that is that there are a lot of unemployed of limited employed developers at the moment, so they're not as much in demand as they probably would
That's
be.
totally true. Yeah, that's totally true.
It's a shame because there are a lot of good developers that got put out, but I think everybody's still this. I know people say, "Oh, well, we're over COVID." That's nonsense. We're not, and we won't be for a while. We weren't over the 2010 crisis, financial crisis, and we're certainly going to take a while to heal from this. But still, give those people with a little bit of talent that want to actually do it, give them a chance. All they need is an opportunity, and they'll make the rest go for you. Just got to give them a chance first.
And of course, since we are talking about the Stargate franchise, I also would like that they really focus on the known universe and don't create any new ugly race we don't need. We had that in so many Star Trek games. I don't
Yes.
want to fight an unknown race. I want to fight the Goa'uld, the Ori, the replicators, stuff we know. A good story in that universe we know, basically.
Yeah, or bring a bad guy from the box even.
Yeah,
Or maybe expand. It's one thing about Star Trek as well, and most sci-fi's where they keep adding new races, and I'm thinking, you have literally, at least Star Trek, Star Wars, hundreds of races to choose from. Why the hell do we need another one?
right.
Expand what we've already got, please.
Star Trek Online did a very good thing that they basically picked up dropped story arcs from random shows, some storylines which just were one-off thing. They just picked it up and used it as an episode or even an arc sometimes. That in the Stargate universe would be amazing. We had so many loose ends there.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys have ever looked at the RPGs. The older RPG books go in depth on the aliens that they introduced in the one-off episodes. Seems like they could try and bring some of that stuff in. I think they did so with when they released in 2018, I think.
I know what you mean, but I never played them.
Oh, I haven't played them either. I just read them.
And Titan, you mentioned 2 days ago during our Pegasus stream that in Pegasus Chronicles they also picked up lesser known factions and lesser known storylines.
Yeah, that's something that the Pegasus Chronicles certainly did. Like the Ashen, they were only there for a couple of episodes, and the unknown race from I always forget the name of the episode from where no race would be a good one with it like the Loop of Conga out. That would be interesting to add in, but the one where Samantha Carter was stuck in the nebula. I always forget that.
I think
the name of that.
that's Grace, isn't it?
Grace Under Pressure.
Yeah, I misheard you. Sorry.
Oh,
Yeah,
what do you think
you're right.
I said?
I thought you said race, as in like
Race.
racing. That's why I went to the Loop of
Me
Conga.
Oh. I was a little confused how you got to the loop from that, but okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, on that note, I would love to see the Sarakan back. They're like I think my favorite alien race in Stargate.
Yeah,
I'd love to see them again.
Yeah, they're kind of cool. I think there was some. I'm probably going to get this wrong, but I think there was some expansion in the books about how they dealt with the Ori. That they took a massive hit from the Ori when they tried to resist, but were eventually conquered. I think, or at least that's what the back of my mind is telling me.
I feel like I've heard that, but I might check now.
Yeah, but seeing those races and seeing what became of them and basically pushing from there would be amazing. Actually getting to see some of these. I mean, we've never. I know there was the what was it, Stargate 100th episode where they did a one shot of the Furlings for a bit of a gag, but I know, and then we've seen one of their colonies that was abandoned, but we've never actually seen the Furlings ever. And we obviously one of the first episodes where they went back to what was his name, Ernest, who was trapped on, and they actually went to go get him.
I remember that one.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of it, but it was in the original meeting place between the ancients, the Asgard, and the Furlings, where they came together for their shared knowledge. He got stuck there. But even something about that, a bit of explanation into okay, well, how did they actually interact? How did they get on? Because as far as we know, they've all been sort of, friendly with each other. But how did they actually? What drew the ancient races together?
I think that'd be interesting because I actually did a video talking about the relationship between the Ox and Asgard. Because I couldn't help but notice how weird it is that the only two races from the Alliance that we see, like in the lower planes, ever interact with each other. I always thought that was weird.
It is.
And
It's
a lot
really
of
weird.
people have been throwing out different things like, oh, they were more like a confederation, or they were more like NATO, or they weren't, or there was no alliance at all. They just hanged out or something.
Yeah, and the thing is, we don't know, and that's tantalizing. We don't know. There's got to be more there. I think saw someone make a video of how the reason that their theory was the reason that the Asgard and the Furlings aren't seen together is because it was actually they didn't like each. Oh, that was it. The Nox and the Asgard. Why did the Nox help the Asgard? Well, maybe the Asgard were always interference. They were always up front. They were always militaristic. Well, maybe the ancients were the glue that held that held the.
That's me. That was my video.
Oh, yeah, maybe they were the glue. Yeah, I completely agree with that one. Oh, but hey, what's your thing? There we
Well, that's
go.
good to know. It definitely reached people, which is really weird that the videos where people always complain about my thoughts are the ones that always do really good. I've noticed.
Somebody's always going to find something to complain about. I
Yeah.
mean, granted, feedback's great. I love feedback,
Mhm.
but it's like, give me something to work with, please. If it's like I always say, if you like me, thank you. If you don't, tell me why. And they never do.
Sadly not.
Yeah, but definitely like something explaining more about like the history of like galaxies, because I feel like a lot of it's kind of gray and people like make random assumptions.
Yeah,
Like,
and
for
it's
example,
very.
sorry, you first.
I was about to say it's very easy to make. I think they've left it grey on purpose, and it's quite easy to make these random connections and random assumptions because we're pulling at straws for a lot of it, and it's enough to tantalize. And I really wish they'd push forward for that.
Something I discovered recently is I'm curious, when do you guys think the Ancient Alliance formed? Before the ancients left for Pegasus or after?
Well, we found that base where what was it, Ernest? I think it's Ernest, but that was definitely in the Milky Way galaxy, and that was supposedly a meeting place for them. So it would have had to be before they left. But then, did they keep the alliance after they left? I'm pretty
That's
sure it
I
was before.
When I made that video, a lot of people commented that like, "Oh wait, but the alliance formed after they came back." I was like, "Huh?" Because I had always been the assumption that it was like the Asgard said, "Oh well, the ancients slept along when O'Neill first met them." Arena the ancient knowledge stuck in his head that, "Oh, they moved on from our space a long time ago." I always assumed they were talking about when they left for Pegasus, but people tell me no, he meant when they ascended, and it's a lot of gray stuff that I think confuses people.
I think it's grey on purpose because even I think that's just good story writing in that case. It gives them enough wiggle room to potentially do something in the future, but it also could be interpreted as okay because they've ascended or because they left the galaxy. It could be both because we never we know enough about them to be tantalized, but not enough to the history's blank enough to be curious. Oh, I should say blank enough to be interpreted in a couple of ways. That's what I should
Yeah.
probably say.
But switching back to the gaming aspect again, 24, what would
Yeah.
you like in a general aspect in gaming?
I suppose if I was looking for I was just talking about someone about this the other day because I had posted the stream of when we were playing Empire War, and someone had said it's a cool mod. I definitely wish I could play, but I just am not a fan of like the click and point stuff. They said they were looking for like either a first or third person shooter. I kind of feel like maybe that would maybe be the best direction to go because that's something like is largely played by a lot of people. So it would be very easy for people to kind of join in and stuff, even if they might not know about Stargate. Then you can have like a single player story, some kind of co-op, and maybe even multiplayer. I think it may be something like Halo-like, I want to say, but maybe I'm just biased to Halo.
I think that might be a bit much to ask of people at the moment because a lot of the games that are selling are either really one way or really another. Like what was it, Baldur's Gate 2 or Baldur's Gate 3 that came out recently, something like that, which is all your traditional RPG, you're rolling dice, but at the same time, people are still selling masses of copy clone what do you call it, like modern warfare or all the rest of it. Kind of hard to mesh them all. So I know we were about to get Sins of a Solar Empire 2 and things like that, but still you got to try and push them all together. I don't think it really works. I know there's a game that I'm thinking of and I can't remember it. Hold on, you know what? I'll load up my Steam and have a look.
I'm also totally agree that the best starting point in the gaming world would be an action game, an FPS game, especially if you consider the original SG1 team was a 4-member team. It would be perfect to have a co-op game in that sense. You go on missions, shoot your way through hordes of replicators, plant
That's
a
what
bomb
you guys
on
mentioned,
a
like shooting
attack
hordes
ship.
earlier. That's what my mind went to.
Have you maybe ever played Battlefield 2142 or heard about it?
Heard about it, never played it.
Heard about it, never played it, but I did play Battlefield 1, although I think it's more like team, I think, based.
It's more in general a bigger team shooter. That's definitely. But in 2142, they had a really really nice game mode. Sadly, a one-off thing. Only there we had that called Titan mode. The mode was basically first you had to play on the ground where you had to capture missile silos. Those silos basically, when captured, fired a missile at the enemy Titan, a big ship in the sky. And after a certain amount of hits, the shield were down. Then everybody had to go to the Titan. There were some either planes or catapults to get there. And basically you had to destroy the Titan from the inside. You had first to destroy some consoles to get to the warp core and then blow up the warp core. In the
You know what that
meantime,
reminds me of?
in the meantime, on the ground, the missile silos still fired. So you could also capture those. So you had multiple front lines after a certain amount of time.
That also reminds me of something a bit like the original Star Wars Battlefront, where you had the ground and then you had the orbit, maybe mixing the two somehow.
Exactly. Something like that. Especially since the Goa'uld used those amazing ring transporters, it would be not too hard to conceptualize a gameplay around that.
Yeah, I could see that. They've done it before. They could do it again if they really wanted to with that.
Sadly, yeah, the Alliance tried this in the sense of giving us a nice shooter, but I still think it would be the best option for the franchise to start at least. A strategy game, for example, I can't really see in the Stargate universe in the sense of you build your starbase, you build your shipyards, and then the ships. I can't really wrap my head around that. Maybe the Asgard would work since they have the beaming technology and they could beam in the different segments of the ships and other stuff. But humans and Goa'uld, they would have to design so much more we have never seen on screen. It would be hard.
Yeah, a bit. Well, that's a bit like what the Pegasus has done. But the problem with that is also it doesn't really. Earth isn't that strong, and sure, we have obviously in the Stargate universe, we've got the beaming technology. In the expanded universe, we've got things like Cell One, where we've got reverse engineered Asgard plasma technology. But even then, Earth's fleets are really small. Like if the Goa'uld had actually legitimately wanted to take Earth out without fear of the Goa'uld, fear of the Asgard, if they pulled their resources, stopped fighting each other, Earth wouldn't have stood a chance at all. It's like
I mean,
the replicators. The replicators, they would have easily wiped out us. So you can't really do a. If you're gonna do a grand strategy like that, you've got to like maybe push it ahead 50 or 100 years to see what the galaxy will be like by that point to give Earth the chance to catch up.
Exactly. That one planet basically can cruise so many multiple ships. Yeah, it's not realistic.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about how many resources they actually took in, not just in, I was about to say in game, but in the actual series, how long it took them to actually get everything. Yeah, it's not a surprise that they struggled.
Maybe make it 20 years later, where we have alliances, and you could really imagine star bases and make it more in the sense than of a traditional RTS. You're totally
Yes.
right. Pegasus Chronicles is a strategy game, but it's not an RTS, so that's why I didn't think about it. But a normal RTS is hard. A tactics game in space is something different. If you only have, say, 4 ships, 5 ships, and you have to do certain missions, that would be great. That would be totally great.
It will be hard, but you've got to make sure that you balance something like that, right? Otherwise, you can end up in a situation where you end up more like on the clock, as it were, or if you end up having to restart and all the rest of it. But I can maybe even something like Stuck in the Past, where you got to try and evade the gold for as long as possible without you can't take resources that you know of because you can't affect your own timeline. And so you got to try and get other resources and work around that. Maybe that would be an idea for sort of an RTS or first person where you're attacking things that you know are supposed to be gone rather than. I sort of lost my you know what I mean. I sort of lost my
yeah,
train of thought halfway through.
I could follow where you were getting at.
Yeah. Well, that could be an interesting concept because it gets that out. It gets away from the issues regarding how
Like,
strong Earth was. Yeah. Sorry, guys, I'm blanking today.
Not a
oh,
problem.
you're good.
2-4, do you have some ideas? I'm leaving you out a little bit here.
No, you're good. I was just trying to think because I know I suggested like a more third-person shooter kind of thing.
I
Definitely,
mean, I don't know about you, but actually, we've seen. Obviously, they've made it started before where we could almost be an SG team. So something like that, something like what was it, Stargate Resistance or something, where you're an SG team and actually going through. Just something like that for an FPS.
yeah, that's either having like either multiplayer like Resistance, where it's 2 teams, one SG, one Goa'uld, or even what we were saying earlier with the co-op thing. Maybe like you get on a team like I think there's plenty of options like games like that where you're on like a co-op team going up against some kind of AI or something, and you're trying to complete a mission. I think of a good example. Shoot, for some reason I'm drawing a blank. I was just thinking of a really good one, but yeah,
The
something
old Counter Strike.
yeah, maybe
Where
like the old Counter Strike or like like something maybe I think with some kind of class because I know that was something Worlds was gonna do, like add a class system like I guess Commando would be O'Neill or even scientists who can decipher like things on the wall or something.
That's kind of game aspect is always for me combined for MMOs, where you had unique classes and you needed, for example, a healer, a tech guy, a damage dealer. In FPS games, I think it's really it should be really simple to have a nice story which you could play alone or together. Have some bots. Of course, you could do.
I think I'm thinking more multiplayer, but like.
Of course, you can also go in the multiplayer route and have asymmetrical gameplay. For example, there's this. There are a few games out there which do this, but that's Dead by Daylight. I hope I say it correctly.
Yeah.
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 Dead by Daylight does it in the sense you have one killer and 5 survivors basically, which have to run away and work together to achieve that goal. You could have maybe a very bad tempered Anubis and 4 people to escape from him. But it would be a niche game. It would be really niche.
Yeah. I guess I'm thinking maybe something that would, if it was to be something, it'd be something that could like reach a lot of people. So probably like what you guys were saying with RTS would probably be the route to go.
Sadly, RTS is the problem. It's also a very niche aspect of gaming.
Yeah, or if we were going to go first person, you could kind of maybe meld the two together and have like a campaign of some sort where you as a server try and attack other people's servers. So one could be a certain faction of Goa'uld, the other could be human, another one could be a different faction of Goa'uld. You could have the Wraith in there, and maybe do it as if you could get enough people, sort of like a server on server kind of thing. So you've got the potential clans, or so maybe like a clan wars where you've got clan on clan action where somebody's being Goa'uld, you're building up your resources, but at the same time, when you get down to it, you've got your staff weapon, you've got your Zagnikitels, you're getting in there and you're shooting in order to build up those resources and move on to another part of the campaign. Maybe
you just gave me a brilliant idea of a game. I never played the game, but I know of it. State of Decay had the option basically that you build up your own base and zombie hordes basically come to the base and you have to defend it and you have to go out to get more resources, fix the human thing like hunger and thirst.
Oh yeah, I haven't played that in ages.
For example, everybody has a base like the SGC. They have to go out to do missions to get stuff, collect new technology to beat the enemy basically. And every base is basically an own server, or doesn't have to be an own server or a place on a server farm basically. It's your clan base, you work together, you make missions, come back, build up your base, get better weapons, more loot. You could even have this stupid thing like progression systems where you have to level up your guns and stuff, which is so modern.
Hey, someone.
Have crafting, you could so much do.
Yeah.
And in the good thing here could be that you can make it as simple as you want and as hardcore as you want.
Yes, yeah. It's honestly, that's kind of what I'm thinking. It sounds like a really good idea, but it's who could we get to make it?
That's the other problem.
Yeah. I mean, who would? Because obviously, something like that would be absolutely epic, but at the same time, something like that is a massive risk if it goes wrong. It's a massive fall if it goes wrong.
Well, in the past, we had many indie studios, no, not even studios, just 2 or 3 guys, which created amazing games. They don't have the newest graphics, but to be honest, I'm not a graphical whore. I don't need the newest, shiniest game. I need good gameplay. That's all I need.
unfortunately, everybody wants everything, and that's the modern audience. I know.
If you consider one of the
Yeah.
best selling games ever is Counter-Strike and Minecraft. Those games are not very pretty.
Yeah, that's
I
true.
mean, Minecraft, I'd say that's more just because it goes for a style that, like, you're right, it doesn't really rely on graphics, but, like, it's
Yeah,
kind of a
it's a certain style. Surround Dead. That's what I was thinking about. It's Surround Dead has been built for years. It's a zombie survival game. You've got a fairly limited map, but it's literally one guy. It's literally one guy in his spare time developing this game, and it's amazing. It's almost, I wouldn't say it's bug free, but there are minimal bugs. There are hard encounters, there are easier encounters. So if you've got somebody with the talent and dedication to do it, you can really push it. And that's another thing that Steam's good for. Surround Dead's been in early access for a while, but it's still been developed on. Still, people are still playing it, still buying it. It's amazing what somebody can do when they just really put their mind to it and have the skills.
I just feel so stupid. I also forgot about XCOM. XCOM also did
that.
this
Yeah.
tactical battles. It was turn-based. You send out your team, collect stuff, or not really collect. You beat basically the crap out of the bad aliens, and after the mission is done, you build up your base, do some research, get new weapons, and then go out again.
I think I know I talked to a lot of people about the Timekeepers, and they also thought it was gonna be an XCOM-like game, and everyone agreed that would have been a lot better of a route to go with.
Yeah, definitely,
It kinda
because
you
the,
build up,
the
like, teams, and then you send them out to plants to collect resources and stuff, like Jaffa or Faith or whatever, and then
Yeah, Dragon Age. I don't know why I didn't think about that. Because you can play the original Dragon Age, you can play that in first person, or you can zoom out and control your team with a little map. But you also have a main base, so you produce resources and things. I don't know why I didn't think about that.
oh, yeah, that one's a good option.
that's the biggest pipe dream from me in the last 24 years, to have again a game in the RTS genre where you could have the option to directly play a unit. So you
Yeah.
basically you play you command your fighters, your battleships, or your tanks, whatever, and then zoom in and have a first person view of the cockpit.
Yes.
It was done in the past. Of course, nowadays we have 4K gaming and everything has to be beautiful, and yeah, we have to make sacrifices, sadly.
Yeah, which is a shame, but they've done it in the past. They can, if they had the support, they could do it again. But they things like what the heck is it called? Not Insurgency. Oh, my brain just is not working. Hold on, I'm just carry on. I'm gonna do a quick Google.
Another game I would love, or another gameplay I would love to see, is kind of an Telltale Games style.
I
They
think that's what
recently
Unleashed was trying to be, I feel like. I mean, there was
not
action, there was, like,
not
dialogue
really.
choices.
Yeah, but it was shallow. If you played, for example, the latest and best Star Trek game in the last 15 years, Star Trek Resurgency, it was a story-driven game. You couldn't influence much, but you had just an adventure style. You clicked on certain items, you had to combine certain things, you had dialogue options. It was on rail, everything. It wasn't much exploration, but it was still nice. It was a good story, a good feeling. And such a game isn't too complicated. You have to make a good story, decent graphics, but it hasn't to be the newest, shiniest thing. And you could have a nice product.
Yeah, and enlisted was the thing that I was thinking about, where you upgrade your individual units and you can either have them controlled by the AI or push each individual unit out yourself, because that's been made since 2021 and it's still going strong.
I've heard about it, but I never watched it even on YouTube.
Fair enough. But yeah, as far as I'm aware, it's still going quite strong.
I have to write it down and check it out. Love to explore new stuff. Then my next idea for a new game would be also very old school, but a classic space combat sim, where basically most people don't like it, but I'm preferring it. You need a joystick, but of course you can do it with keyboard and mouse to fly an F-302. You don't have to fly the biggest ship, just a small fighter. You have to go on missions, Wing Commander style, have briefings. Just a nice story of 10, 15 missions, and I would be happy. Or Freelancer would also be a great idea in the Stargate universe. Freelancer was a kind of open worldish trading, exploration, fighting simulation where you had a fighter, you controlled it via the mouse, and you could go to stations, you could go to planets, trade there, sell the stuff you collected from your enemies if you destroy them, or make missions, transport cargo to one place to another place, scouts certain areas, mining, everything was in it. Imagine starting with a gold cargo ship and earning your ranks up until you have a attack ship, where you can customize all the different turrets, buy different heads for your crew, whatever. It could do so much.
Yeah, I'm looking at the because I haven't heard of it before, so I decided to look it up. Yeah, I definitely think that would work.
Yeah, strap a casual troll and ion cannon underneath attack and go around just enjoying yourself.
Or offering your services as a bounty hunter.
Yeah, and having sort of a living universe with some NPCs in there and some pieces. Or specific people. That kind of reminds me of Vivorian a little bit, where you, except for with Vivorian, it's a bit like Minecraft, but in space. But there's pirates, there's other factions, there's giant bosses. There's a really powerful random AI that goes, I have detected you. You will now die. But yeah, where you slow, you build up from nothing. You build up from a ship that's just a couple of blocks, and you can make ships that are literally millions of blocks long, or
I
millions
just
of
had
HP
this
long.
idea when you mentioned the bounty hunter thing. Maybe they could set this like sort of the origin for where the Aleutian Alliance came from.
Yeah, perfect, definitely. The Lucian Alliance management simulator. Yeah, there are really many game genres which would offer so much to the Stargate franchise.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Feels like they either just go with the wrong one, or the one they go for just ends up going belly up.
Yep. Which is a damn shame.
The sad thing in gaming development today is that the big studios always want to make titles which gave them a big success in the millions, which is also a relic a little bit from a past time where they had to make CDs and manuals and boxes and ship that crapware to the sellers. We don't have this anymore. They could downgrade their expectations and, for example, release a kind of demo where you have maybe just one map and explore how much is the fan base reacting to that, and then explore that.
Yeah, and you'd think that this would be a bit common sense, but you'd still have to obviously develop the map. You'd still have to get it in, but some of these companies have the cash to do that and just not the willpower to try.
Especially if you consider in the past we heard about so many different projects which were developed near to the end and then got
And then
cancelled.
expand them. Yeah.
So you spend so much for nothing. Why not spend a little bit for a potential huge success?
I don't have an answer for you.
Yeah,
None of us are game developers. Those are only things they can answer. I guess not the game developers, but
Yeah.
you know what I mean, like the executives and stuff.
exactly those guys. I talked to many developers, and one of my co-hosts is also not a game developer but software developer, and yeah. That's also the reason I have also to mention one very big item on my list is they have to test everything.
Yes.
We had in the past so many broken releases, unbelievable releases, which should be
Bethesda,
avoided.
anyone?
Sorry?
Bethesda,
Destiny.
anyone?
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Have you ever heard about Star Wars Battlefront, the Classic Collection?
Yes.
Yeah, there was.
That
Yep,
was
but
a
nothing
broken
worked.
mess. Unbelievable in scale.
What I find crazy about it is that, like, you think with like the technology, like the way we could probably better make games now, like they would know to fix this stuff out. If a game releases with like a bug or two, like that might be understandable.
It's normal.
They release these games which are just basically near unplayable.
Yeah.
People just kind of abandon it in mass, and like,
I think it's normalized by this point. People have had so many broken releases that they just put up with it and try and play it anyway. At least that's what I feel like. There's not the incentive to actually fix the product. Why
Dude.
fix it before release when you can fix it when you can just keep adding minor patches for ages and like, hey, look, we are working on it, guys.
That's totally
Maybe
true
right,
if it's just normal bugs. But if it's not playable, the customer can't even really play it, then you are failing completely.
Yeah.
I mean, I have seen that though with like Fallout 76, Cyberpunk. I remember these games released like near unplayable. I guess they were a little playable. But
I
kind of what
got
you were saying, like at some point, like I guess we just got so used to it that now the expectation is, oh, you're playing the game. We'll fix it as it's still being, I guess as after we released it, and just hope that it gets made better. And I guess some of those games did turn it around later, but it's like I wish it had released it the first time.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, they were just so. Oh god, I'm gonna cough. Hang on. But yeah, we're just so used to it. It's become. I mean, I literally could not play Starfield when it released, and even now it's as choppy as anything for me. I can't physically play the game properly. So I know some people had that issue with like what was it, Cyberpunk, and I'm trying to think. I keep wanting to say Cyberpunk Red. No, not Cyberpunk Red. But
But
it's
the
happened
list
with
is
so many.
very, very long, to say at
Yeah.
least.
Yeah, the list is very long. But maybe, I think that's hopefully there'll be a change in the industry. But we won't know until it happens.
Yeah, like I mentioned before, I think a big plus we currently have is the indie industry.
Yes.
It's funny in one sense. It's very complicated to do a game nowadays because you have to cater to the 4K audience and the graphic horrors out there. Sorry, guys, if you're one of them. On the other side, you have so many data banks and so many asset libraries already. You don't have to develop your own engine. You don't have to develop your own netcode. Everything is already there. Game developers in the past had to do everything by themselves. Now you don't. So don't go for the biggest apple. make it smaller, make some small indie product, and you will have a lot of happy friends. I'm not sure if you know about Pulsar.
No, I don't.
Yep.
Pulsar is a very niche game. It's a totally co-op game. You can't even really play it alone. You have bots, but they're very stupid. It's basically a bridge simulator. It's a dream game for Star Trek, but you could also adapt that to Stargate, that you need a captain, a pilot, a science officer, an engineer, and a security officer. And together you have to fly the ship and go on away missions. You beam down to the planet, look for an SOS signal, for example, or trade your latest loot. Stuff like that. And it's not in the nicest graphics, but it's an ego shooter and it really works.
Well, maybe we'll get something like that eventually, but at
Yeah.
the moment, it's a lot of hope and not a lot of action on the developer's side, at
Yeah.
least.
The core problem, of course, is that the Stargate franchise, as the entire franchise, is basically in limbo. We don't know what is happening. Of course, there can't be real games without a show also in the background. I'm not sure if we should get a game like Destiny, if you know that. It was a game where you had, I won't call it an MMO, but an online experience. Most of it was online, and the story was influenced by the show. And also stuff in the game could influence the show. Very complicated, very heavy to produce, but it's an idea at least.
I'm not sure how I feel about that. I don't really feel positive or negative about that one. I just...
I can't also really comment on it because I never played it, but it's definitely a unique approach to something.
Oh, certainly. Certainly it's a unique one. Maybe having perhaps audience votes or something, or at least some form of additional audience interaction to help drive forward the story.
For example, I guess everybody nowadays knows about Helldivers. I haven't played it, but I know about that the player basically influence the, let's call it planets or sectors in the galaxy, who is controlling which sector. So that could be an influence for the story.
Yeah, something like that could be interesting.
Honestly, it kind of reminds me of Planet Side a little bit.
Yeah, it
Like
goes in
trying to
that
control
direction. Yeah.
That's something I own, but I've never played.
I tried it, but I couldn't. I just I had some issue running on my computer at that point. I just turned it off and never turned it back on.
Yeah, I played it on a few LAN parties and that's it. Sadly, didn't capture my mood.
Fair enough. I know there's certainly some old games that I really used to like. The old SWAT games. I used to enjoy those.
Oh, I love SWAT.
Yeah, SWAT 3 is a favourite. SWAT 3 is a lot of my childhood. But I just cannot get it to run. Just will not have it, no matter what I do.
This will be cut, but this will be cut from the video. But I did. Oh God, it's already half a year ago. An interview with one modder of SWAT 4. He did the Elite Force mod, and it's amazing what he created in that. I can definitely help you play those old games. We play them from time to time on this Discord channel.
Certainly appreciate it. I know there's also the original Sea Dogs was really good. I've got the original Sea Dogs, but the one after, the Pirates of the Caribbean, before Pirates of the Caribbean was a thing. I've got that one, but that just won't run either. Some of these old games are so good, but they just, modern hardware just overloads them.
In general, that's that goes for the entire gaming industry. I think developers really should again have a look at the past. What games did we ever release out there? Which was a success? Which wasn't? What could be adapted to a Stargate style? And then just try something. Like I said, it doesn't have to be big. Give us not a casual shooter, I hate those, but something basic, something grounded.
Something simple that you can just throw yourself into, but that won't take up your entire life. That you can
Right.
enjoy.
Yeah. And of course, we don't want to suffer. Dying over and over again isn't fun.
No.
In general, I also,
Very good.
even though I rarely play it that way, I like the option to play also a game on a very easy setting. So it's really easy. But then also say, okay, I want a hardcore experience. I really want to fear of my life.
Yeah. Yeah, I can get behind that. I do have like the Pegasus Chronicles, perfect example. Playing it on hard, and that I've got an easy campaign, then I've got a hard campaign. It's like, okay, well, I'm being completely swamped on the hard one, but it's when I want that hard experience versus when I just want to have some fun and beat some bots.
Exactly, especially when you have such a frustrating day at work. You come home and you just need a brainless shooter. Just
Yes.
mowing down some Goa'ulds would be so amazing.
Indeed.
Indeed.
Indeed. I guess we are running out of ideas. So if you don't have anything, I would close it off.
I think we've covered pretty much everything we can.
I can't think of anything else at the moment.
Then let me say thank you to you both. It was really a nice discussion. And yeah, I hope we can do that in the future again. Maybe different events, maybe different topics. And
Yeah, it was a pleasure.
Yeah, this was fun. I'd definitely be up for something like this in the future. Or
great to hear. Then I would say that's it for this video. Leave us a comment. Tell us what you think about the games. And of course, play the game. Until next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
hey.
So, the stream goes offline now.